Hi there, everyone out in Facebook land. Happy Friday to you. Have you ever wondered about the energy in your home, even in your life, your space, whether you're dwelling or you're selling? There are ways to increase the energy, not only for yourself and your family living in the home, but if you're selling your home for those potential buyers. And if you increase their energy and raise their energy, they're going to be excited. They're going to stay in the space longer. And the ultimate goal is to make an offer and buy your home. So I am so excited and privileged to have my guest this morning, who was just a sweetheart. She's from Seattle area. And she, on the fly, jumped in as my other Feng Shui artist. We're moving her out to 2 weeks because she had a family emergency. So thank you so much, Jenny, for jumping in. This is Jenny Holmes from Three Frog Design. She is a designer. She is a Feng Shui consultant, master, and an author. And so we have an expert with us today to share with us all of the nuances and the energy raising techniques and tricks that you want to stay tuned to watch and learn and implement. So welcome, Jenny. Am I pronouncing your name right? Nakaho Hones?
Nakao.
Hones.
Yes,
Nakao.
I'm Japanese, so that's a Japanese name.
Nakao, yes.
Yes.
Well, welcome so much. And again, thank you. I know it's a couple hours earlier there in Seattle.
Thank you for having me, Kat. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I just, people say a lot of things about the internet, Facebook, et cetera, but that's how you and I connected, and that's how I connect with a lot of people. And of course, we chat and meet beforehand to make sure we're a good fit. And I think based on our dialogue prior to going live, you and I could chit chat for the next couple hours and not run out of things to say, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So our audience a little bit about, let's start off with, how did you get into the business, design / Feng Shui?
Yes, I was a stay-at-home mom, actually, because my husband was in the shipping industry and we lived in various countries.
Oh, okay.
And so we lived I grew up in Tokyo. I'm from Honolulu originally. And then we moved to Singapore. We moved to the Middle East. And then when I came here, I had to find something I could do because I was, a stay-at-home mom, because in the other countries I couldn't work because of visa issues. So I decided to go back to school and I became an interior designer. Yeah. And then like everybody, I was reading all these Feng Shui books and I read stuff on the internet and I was very curious about it.
Yes.
And I also study a lot of Japanese cultural arts. One is ikebana, which is flower arrangement.
Ikebana, I've heard of that, yes.
Yeah, it's Japanese flower arrangement. So I was in the ikebana group in Seattle, and they invited a speaker, and he was a Feng Shui master. And he talked about Feng Shui, and I thought, wow, I've, never met a real Feng Shui person.
Right.
And, so I asked him if he taught classes in Seattle, and he said yes. And that's how I started my Feng Shui journey.
Wonderful. And I imagine that you bring with you just, how could you not, from all of the various exotic countries that you lived in. My experience having been in real estate for so many years and design and staging is that different cultures have different sensibilities. Like I would have one culture that had to have the door facing a certain way, and another culture that wasn't an issue, but they had to have this. So did you find that to be interesting, the various countries?
Yes, every country has their own system, or the way they live is different. And so I had to learn the hard way. And I made a lot of mistakes.
That's what they call experience, right? That's the voice of experience, right? That you've fallen down and made mistakes and come out with a lot more knowledge to share with folks. Yeah.
For example, when I moved to Kuwait, we had to look for a place to live. And then what I've noticed was, like in the West, your bathrooms are usually far away from your dining room.
Yes.
But what I found was all the bathrooms were right next to the dining room. And I couldn't figure out
what country was that, Jenny?
This is in Kuwait.
In Kuwait. Okay.
Yeah. And then it was very strange for me. And I asked somebody finally, and I said, why do they have a bathroom right next to the dining room? That's like the worst place.
Yes.
And they said, oh, no, it's because in their culture, they're Muslim, they wash before they eat.
Ah.
So they wash their, hands and feet and face and everything. So they're cleansed before they eat food.
Oh, I love that. I'm so glad that's the answer. I was hoping it wasn't because they had digestive issues. They had to run to the bathroom quick.
Yeah, so they're very clean, and they respect their food, and so that's a way to make it convenient for their guests and families.
Yes. Years and years ago in Southern California, I ate it was Moroccan, which I think is similar, but
Yes.
they bring the bowls and you wash your hands before you actually, you sit on the floor, eat with your hands, but you wash your hands before you start eating with your hands. Yeah.
So it wasn't for the bathroom. It really was to wash.
A convenience to cleanse before the ritual of eating. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, because that, breaking bread, eating is so sacred and even ceremonial in, I would say, every country, right? Even our country, so much. So
let's go back to energy.
Let's go back to energy. Let's dive into, the energy, because I think some people don't realize that everything is energy.
Yes.
Right? Everything. And they used to think, really just, we are energy, but every cellular, molecular into our DNA, even this big diamond paperweight is energy.
So funny.
It's all energy. And they've realized probably 20 years ago now that we are actually connected to our universe in an energetic field, in an energetic way. This is why manifestation is so profound and prevalent and works, because we are all connected. I think if people realize that and we're more aware of that, and raise their level of consciousness on that, it would just be like a game changer. So how can our viewers in their space, what are some key, in your experience as a designer and a consultant, Feng Shui consultant, can raise or even change or correct? And I know, you and I said we can talk for days, which is why we're having another consultant in 2 weeks on Feng Shui, on the Feng Shui ability, corrections, raising the level, et cetera. What are some top areas in your experience where we could, let's talk about raising the energy level. I think most of us suffer from times in the day or our life of low energy levels.
Right.
How could our space be affecting that?
Right. So first, let me talk about, like you said, everything has energy. You're absolutely right. In the Feng Shui I practice, which is called Form School, we say form defines energy, which means everything is a form. So everything has energy. So for example, I have a pencil here, and we know, you and I, we're living beings, and so we have a certain type of vibration. And we only think in the past, I would say that we would think that only things that are alive have energy. For example, pets, people, plants. We think that's energy. However, things that are not alive, inanimate things, actually do carry a form of energy.
Yes.
And we can assess that energy by its shape and also by its material. And so the difference between live things and non-live things is the vibration level. So you and I connect really well because our vibration levels are similar, and we like that. We resonate. So when it's less, the vibration is different, I don't resonate as much with the pencil as I do to something alive.
Yes.
So in that sense, in your house, when you come inside the house, it's nice to have a person there because your energy is relating. And if you don't have a person, a pet is nice. It's a little lower, different energy, different vibration, but it's still alive. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have pets, the next best thing is live plants. So if you are staging and you enter a home and there's something alive, you immediately have a better connection if there are no plants at all. Mm-hmm. So if you open the front door, if they see something green, there's an affinity right there.
Like this.
That's right. There's an affinity. The energy vibration is close. So it's nice when you open that door and there's something green, you know? And so you think, oh, you're making an outdoor connection to an indoor connection. It's not a cold connection. There's a nice transition.
I like that. So let me ask you if folks, you know, whether they're just living in their home or trying to sell their home, how do, say, right now we have a lot of, in fact, I just took about 20 pictures of all the sago palms that are all brown because of our snow here. And I'm looking at it as a very artistic, it's going to be an artistic compilation. However, they will come back once you prune them all down, they will all come back. But in regular circumstances, if you've got dead plants on the porch or a dead tree, or how does that affect your energy?
Yeah, it does affect your energy. It just kind of lowers it, you know, you don't feel as uplifted, you know. But you see, energy is not always constantly up. Just like the seasons, you know, in a natural environment, we go through seasons, and our body also, you know, kind of goes with the season. So for example, in spring, we're kind of ready to sprout. In summer, we're all out. In fall, we harvest. And
thank you for bringing up spring. And for those of you who are watching, this is the first of our renewal and spring and March segments. So that's awesome that you bring up spring, because it's renewal, right? We start to hear the birds again. We start to see things bloom.
That's right. So for example, it can go down, you know, in the wintertime, it's a time to rest. Oh, Kat, you're frozen for me. So let me talk about being connected to the energy. You know, when you have, is there a difference between real plants and artificial plants? Yes, there is, because the real plants actually, you know, gives off that vibration. And so because we're natural beings, we'll feel it as more than an artificial plant. But still, an artificial plant gives us the impression that it's real, because nowadays they look so real that it's good. You know, why not have an artificial plant if your space cannot use a real plant because it's, for example, too dark, you know, and especially if you're staging, it's very temporary. So go ahead and use the, there you are.
Oh, I don't know what happened. It must have been something on our side, the connection.
I kept talking, just in case.
Awesome. Hopefully you were still on, but maybe not. Could you, for the last 30 seconds, repeat, just in case our audience didn't hear that? Sorry, everybody. We had to check some technical difficulties.
I was just talking about, is there a difference between real live plants and artificial plants?
Yes, that you read my mind, because I would have asked you that.
Yeah. So the connection, the energy connection is different. So, you know, because we are live and they are, the live plants are there. So there is a better energy connection, but still an artificial plant still does wonders, because some places in a house where you can't have a live plant, it makes you feel good. You know, it gives you a little bit of greenery, and, you know, it's good, but it's not as good as a live plant.
So for those of us who have maybe a brown thumb, and that's really one of the reasons I think I had mentioned to you before we went live, that we have launched a division, Cat's Eye Decor and More, and we do custom biophilia. This is some of our table art, but we do large preserved moss that's sourced from all over really the world. And it brings, it actually raises your endorphins seeing it, even though it was live and preserved. I think it's a step up from probably your plastic or silk arrangements because it was live
material.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think even, to your point on that, it doesn't raise your energy as much, artificial plants. But because our, muscle has memory, our senses have memory. So when we sense that, when we feel that, it brings in a sense and raises those endorphins because it has a memory of nature, of outdoors, of, the connection to source. Would you agree with that?
You're absolutely correct. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So like we're talking about natural elements, and vibrations. So
yes,
like you said, your product is a natural but dried element. So it's just like wood. So we have a connection to wood more than we would, and pottery more than we would to, for example, plastic. And it's just because it's more natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aren't we seeing, Jenny, from a design perspective, we're seeing the natural elements coming back into play more in terms of design, mixing the elements, the textures, the wood, the natural stone, the greenery, all of those things. I think we as humans, we kind of thirst, because we're so connected to our devices and our computers and our iPads and all of that. I think innately we're hungering to get back to the basics of our source and of nature. Are you seeing that in your design elements?
Yes. We're seeing a lot of wood. We're seeing a lot of natural, like you say, natural elements. And I think part of that is also because we're trying to be more, what would you say? We're conscious of saving the earth,
Yes, sustainable. Yes.
Sustainability is green design.
Yes.
And so a lot of the man-made items cannot be, recycled. I mean, yes, some of them can, but mostly if it's natural material, it can be sent back to the earth and it will become part of the earth again.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have, polypropylene and off-gas chemicals and things like that. We're going to have a guest, Lori Goska from Essential Living, who's going to talk about, is your home making you sick?
Oh, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So y'all want to tune in on that one because that's another area. And I'm sure you would agree, Jenny, that raising your vibration in your space has to do with all of the senses, what you see, what you smell, what you hear, all of those things to raise our vibration and have an improved sense of well-being.
Yeah.
So important, so very important right now that so many more people, are working from home, right?
Yes, because we're working from home, we have to create an environment that makes us productive because we have a lot of distractions. And the major distraction is this, right?
Wow.
Here.
Yes.
And so what I do, because I'm human like everybody else,
right.
I get distracted. So what I try to do is, I tried many things. I put it to the side. And then I put it in a box and I put it in another room, but it was bothering me. So if I have it near me in a box, that one extra effort to take it out of the box was good.
Oh, I like that. Just putting it in the box, because then your mind is conscious to go, okay, I'm disrupting the moment. I'm disrupting whatever. If I'm doing production for my job, or I'm paying attention to my child or my spouse, or a business partner, you have to then consciously think, okay, I'm doing a disruptor. I'm going to have to take it out of the box, and maybe you're going to think twice.
Right. If you don't see it, it doesn't bother you as much. If you see it, then you want to look at it.
Yes.
If it's not there, it's much better.
Yes, absolutely.
We're so easily influenced, you know.
We are. And, you know, I'm guilty. I know probably a lot of other people are guilty as well. You know, I have the shiny ball syndrome. You know? If it's shiny, I'm going to, and then you get distracted. You're on your phone. You go, wait a minute, I was going to go in and pay a bill and now I'm shopping for a jacket. What's going on?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
And then add insult to injury. You've got Amazon one click.
That's right. That's right. So in Feng Shui, one of the things we do is we try to remove distractions if you're
distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And because everything has energy, everything can become a distraction.
Yes.
So the less stuff in your room when you're working, the better.
Absolutely.
So having an organized space is important.
Yeah, you don't want to see the rest of my desk, but I'm working on it. I think most people on Zoom, it's like, okay, we've got this space, but you don't want to see the rest of the space. But I'm working on it because I know that if my space is in order, I'm going to feel settled. Because if not, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, you know, for me, if it's not, I'm constantly feeling on edge that I need to be doing it. I need to be doing something else. I need to be straightening my space before I can do what I'm doing right now. And that just prevents me from doing what I'm doing right now in a 100% place.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely correct. So, you know, to think it through first, okay, organize this first, and then we'll do this. It just makes you more calm. And when you're more calm, you make better decisions. Your actions are better because you're not agitated.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's the key of Feng Shui. It's how do we make ourselves in a condition where we can make sense and we can make good decisions. Because every decision leads to some kind of result.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just talking to my daughter on the phone before this call saying, honey, all you got to think about is what you're going to do next. You don't have to save the world. You don't have to cure cancer. Just, okay, I've got this situation. What am I going to do next? And I think the Feng Shui concepts really that, and, you know, being centered, calming ourselves. You know, I did a little Tuesday tip last summer about, you know, just breathing. I find myself, and I think a lot of people, shallow breathe. Find yourself, you're not really taking full diaphragmatic breaths. And so, you know, this segment was just about 4, 4, 4, and 4. Breathing in 4, holding it for 4, fully exhaling for 4, and holding it for 4. And I do that. I literally do that a day because I'm just a natural shallow breather. Oh. And I think a lot of people are. And wow, we need oxygen, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody, let's all take a breath. Hold it for 4. And exhale. Another 4. I feel calmer already, even though I can hear my puppy dog scratching on the back door. How about you, Jenny?
Yes. Oxygen is wonderful. And it's, you know, we can do it any time of day.
We can do it anytime. Yeah. And that's when I really, it's really funny because after I did that segment, I realized how often I do it. I'll do it in the car when there's traffic. I'll do, you know, and yeah, you can do it anytime. It's a free gift to yourself. Oxygen. When I went to visit some friends in Denver, they actually have cans of oxygen, you know, because of the elevation.
Oh.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. You know, give yourself a shot of oxygen.
Wow.
But you don't even have to buy a can. Yeah, we're not at 4,000 elevation here. You don't even have to buy a can. You can do it yourself.
Yeah. And then one other hint I can give you is you put your hand on your stomach and you push your stomach out when you breathe, and then you push it in to exhale.
Yes. Yes. That's excellent. Yes, because then you can really tell that you're doing diaphragmatic breathing instead of up here shallow breathing.
Yeah, shallow breathing and deep breathing. So just put your hand on your stomach and make sure your hand goes out and in.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, balance and raising our energy is really, it's so complex, but really so easy to take easy steps. So we've got plants. We've learned that plants are greenery, preferable living. If you've got a brown thumb like me, it can be biophilia and or artificial. We use a lot of greenery in staging. It just, I wouldn't do a stage with, or even a design without some sort of a greenery, one of those elements.
Right.
We know, in terms of keeping our space together, that breathing is an easy fit. I just love that. And I love your tip about holding the belly, because that's something that we can just do at any time. When the kids are stressing out, the spouse is stressing out, you've got a leak in the ceiling, whatever the problem is.
Remember, breathe.
Breathe. Just breathe. And it will make such a difference in your whole life, really. My granddaughter's 9 years old right now, but when she was a toddler, and probably many of you as parents have done this, when they do their little tantrums, and so forth, and you stop them and just say, we would say to Elizabeth, now just breathe, take a deep breath, and we would put her through the breathing. And ta-da! She was calmed down.
My children had tantrums too. I would just let them have their tantrum.
Yes.
They get tired. You know? And then when they're tired, then they calm down.
Yes. And that's another method too that works. Sometimes they don't tire and you have to intervene. But I think it's good to let kids, and really people too, go through your emotions, whatever they are, and then you'll come back cleansed. As long as you do it in a positive manner, you don't punch holes in the wall or say nasty things to people or whatever. So let's talk about placement. Because again, I know you as a professional designer and a Feng Shui consultant. What are some easy, I would say, some common maybe mistakes that folks are possibly making in furniture placement? And I've got my ideas too, but I want to get your take. And some maybe corrections, easy corrections that folks could do in their space to create and increase the energy in their space.
What I often see is sometimes the furniture layout, if the room is big, it can be too spread out.
Yes.
And then when it's too spread out, the sofas are very far apart. You really can't create a conversation.
Yes.
You end up shouting at each other because they're too far apart. So you have to make it a comfortable distance where you can actually create and the energy can be exchanged.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I see.
I love that. And it's funny, that's the first thing that you bring up, because I see that so much. We do a lot of occupied consultation as well. And, we love, we love our open concept homes. It keeps us stagers and designers in business because, and let's just talk about that. So let's say you're living in a space and it's got the common thing and easiest thing that people do is they have the open space and they just shove the furniture up against the wall because they don't know what, they don't know what they don't know in terms of what you just mentioned, conversation. So that can inadvertently lower our vibration when we're living in the space.
Correct.
Right. Not even defining it for buyers, but just living in the space. And you may not be able to put your finger on it. You just don't quite feel connected or high vibe, if you will. So by moving the furniture in, you do create, as you said, Jenny, that intimate conversation area. You're now focused at whatever the focal point is. Maybe it's a fireplace. And you've got your 18 inches from the coffee table to the couch so that you can walk around the coffee table. Excuse me. And then depending on how much space you have from the back of the couch to the wall, you want to make sure, because all homes are different space, you want to make sure that you have at least 36 inches space to walk around. If you have more than that, if you have a huge space and you have more than that, you can anchor it with a sofa table.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Yeah, you can anchor it and put something behind it so it looks like it's on purpose and not, oh, what's wrong with all that space?
Yes, it doesn't look like it's floating.
Like it's floating. Exactly. That's what prevents it from looking like it's floating. It's now anchored.
Correct.
The other thing on couches I like to mention is, and my team knows this, sometimes you've got some challenging floor plans, again, whether it's design or staging. If at all possible, you don't want to put the couch to where you enter into the living space, you hit the back of the couch. Because that's not good Feng Shui, right?
I was just going to bring that one up.
Yeah, see, I'm going to have to take your training, but I know a little bit about Feng Shui.
Because that's not welcoming.
No, exactly. And that's the bottom line. It's not welcoming.
Yeah.
And it makes the space look smaller, right?
Yeah.
Too.
The living room is, you want to be able to go in, welcome people so they want to sit down and want to have a conversation, because that's what builds relationships.
Absolutely. So we've started, and I've seen other designers and stagers do it. I call it Cat's Conversation Pit. So when we do investor homes, oftentimes they have these formal living rooms in the older homes that we don't use anymore. So rather than making it a formal, because your buyer, who's probably going to be in their 30s or 40s, is going to go, what the heck is that? So we do like 3 to 4 chairs, a low coffee table, an anchor rug, and make it Cat's Conversation Pit. And how welcoming is that, right? Because as you say, it creates that, that environment where people want to sit down, have a chat, have a beverage, and connect.
Well, funny you say that, Kat. I just did a couple of years ago, I did a kind of a conversation pit like that for a client, because she had a formal dining room that the family never used.
Right.
And so we decided to make that her wine room.
Right.
We put in all low refrigerator, wine cabinets.
Right.
And then we put a little round table with round swivelly chairs around, and so she could have her friends over and just talk around this little table.
Yep.
And have a conversation and a glass of wine. And she called it.
You know what? I don't drink wine, but it makes me want to just go and sit there and have a glass of Perrier.
And she doesn't drink a lot of wine either, but it was kind of a nice feeling.
Oh, like just a welcoming area where you can sit and just enjoy the company, no matter what you're drinking. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's great.
We never used that room, and now we use it.
And that's it. A lot of folks, when I used to be in new home sales, I would let folks know, just because this has a chandelier and it looks like a dining room, hey, if you have a pool table and that's your lifestyle, do that. I mean, I'm right now in what was supposed to be a dining room. And it was too small for this big, heavy set I brought from California. So we had it as a library for many years. And now I took my desk out of my shared room with my granddaughter as her room when she comes over. And now I have my own office. Wonderful. So, create, relook at what your space is. Just because it has a chandelier, take out that chandelier and put something else and make it a room that fits you, whether it's a hobby room or a wine room or a study or whatever. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's exactly what I tell my clients. Who cares what other people think? This is your home.
Exactly. And you and I were talking, it's the opposite of staging.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's personalized. And in staging, it's all about who the buyer is, and it's marketing. We're going to market to the broadest audience to sell your home for your price point in this demographic, et cetera. But then we switch gears to our design clients and say, like I had a client once where we're out looking at rugs and she goes, well, I don't know, I like this, but hey, it's just me. I go, wait a minute. It's all about you. What do you mean it's just you? It's all about you, what you like.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Because that's the energy thing. If you like it, it makes your energy go up. So it raises your energy. But if you have
Yes.
no connection, it doesn't do anything for you.
Yes, I love that. And, many of us, I mean, I started off in my day, I'm not going to give away how ancient I am, but, many of us, no matter how old we are, we started in our 20s with just a lot of things that were given to us,
Yes.
right, from family members to get started,
Yeah.
And so it may or may not connect with you, but it got you going.
Right.
You probably had a pretty good vibration at that because you weren't in an empty space. You had loving people who donated stuff to you. But I love that concept that you say, that it is about you. And then if we just bring in color, one of my favorite topics. Is color. When I go out to a design client, the first thing we find out is, what are your happy colors?
Yeah, that's
right.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, we have to think about the fixed elements because we don't want to clash and we want it to be cohesive. But after that, let's find your happy colors, because if you have your happy colors in your space, you're going to raise your vibration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And feel connected. And that's it's such a trickle down effect, I think. The whole, this is why I'm fascinated with your specialty in Feng Shui, because it has such a trickle down effect on our well-being as having this human experience.
You're absolutely right. People, there's a lot of misconceptions in Feng Shui, because traditionally they say, a red door is good in Feng Shui. So everybody started, to paint their door red, but there's a story behind it. In ancient China, long, long, long time ago, only the high-ranking government officials could paint their front door red. It identified. But over time, that law disappeared. And then when that disappeared, everybody painted their front door red because they wanted to be thought of as wealthy and, high-ranking.
Yes.
And that's where this Feng Shui belief began. So a red door is great in Asian culture because we love red. It's a really auspicious color. It's festive,
Yes.
And that's fine, but it doesn't mean that other colors don't work. You got to work with what matches your house,
Right. Or in my case, the
color you love.
The board, the architectural committee board says you have to look like everybody else, but that's okay. Inside your house, you can do whatever color that you want.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So the color is complicated. We actually had Joanna Lynette Weary here as our guest, who is a color expert. Yes, and talking about color and the nuances of color, because color can be complicated.
Yes.
Which is why I keep learning. I have 3 certifications on color, and I'm still learning about color because it can be complicated. But it's fascinating, as well, because again, back to your industry, color can change our energy depending on how we want to feel and live in the space.
That's correct. From an energy perspective, we like more pastel colors because they're more calming. Strong, bold colors have a lot of energy. And so you have to use them carefully, because if you have too much of a strong color in a large space or a large wall, it can be draining.
I'm so glad you brought up that point. I just had a design client, say, well, I want to do some niche walls. And I says, well, when I come out there, we'll take a look. Typically, and I actually learned this from Joanne, you don't want to do niche or accent colors. You want to stay on the same color card, maybe 3 to the most, or 4 up on the same color card, so you'll be cohesive.
Yes.
Back in the day, it can date your space if you put the bold red niche. It dates. But more importantly, because again, it's your space. If you don't care that your space is looking dated, more importantly, it raises the energy and could be a reason why you're feeling angst and you don't know it. Now, restaurants, I believe, use red, a shade of red, probably more of a brick red, because they want you to eat more.
Yes.
They want that energy to be raised.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But you probably don't want that in your house. And unless it's maybe a game room or I don't know, even that. I don't know. Do you see that anymore with your design clients where they're using bright colors?
Not. It's kind of dying down.
Yeah.
Not very many people have a strong accent wall.
Right.
More wallpaper's coming back. That's
it is
texture.
Yes.
Just to give it that little contrast.
Yes. Are you seeing that a lot more? I know I have seen it. I haven't had any clients bite on it, but I do like some of them are just textural, as opposed to having a lot of color, right?
Right. It's just kind of like the same tone, but in a texture.
Yes.
Yeah, just to give it a little bit more warmth.
So we're going over a little bit, but I don't mind. I don't mind because I think this is a fascinating topic. So once it goes on YouTube, you can scroll forward if you don't, resonate with what we're saying. But I want to finish up with another element in raising our vibration. What can you talk to us about in terms of lighting? And I know lighting affects color, but how lighting can either raise or drain our energy levels.
Yes, lighting is a very important aspect in Feng Shui because basically when the room is much lighter, we feel uplifted. So ideally, natural light is very good. And so to have large windows with natural light makes us feel good is because it's nature. But in a lot of times we don't have that luxury and we must use artificial lighting. Nowadays we have LED lights that have, natural sunlight and, things like that can help. In a bathroom, you can use a warm light because you want to look and put your makeup on and you want to look warm and, you don't want it too cold and you don't want to look blue in a bathroom. I like to have a little bit more warmth. In a kitchen, you want to see your food. You want a little bit maybe more cooler lights. That's what I think. And in the living room, again, we go warm. So that's how we would differentiate it from an interior design perspective. From a Feng Shui perspective, it's kind of the same thing. If we don't have enough light, then it can make you depressed. So turn on those lights. If you're feeling down, brighten up the room and you will feel better. You just will feel better. You will
feel better. That's one of the first things we do when we go in, for staging. In fact, we did one recently. They had, all beautiful windows off the second balcony. It was a 3-story, potential light everywhere, but it was all kept with the shades drawn. And when you walked in, it looked very dark. And just by opening up those blinds alone, it was like another space. So that's a great tip. A lot of us, my husband's like this. If I didn't go and open up the shutters and everything, he'd probably just live in a cave. That's the first thing I do when I get up because it elevates my vibration.
Yes.
And my energy, as you mentioned. So if you're feeling down or you're feeling depressed, even if you don't really normally open up the shades, open them up. You'll feel better. You'll raise your vibration.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And open the windows. Sometimes you need, new air. Let the air flow too.
Yes. Yeah, my husband's good at that. He will, that's a really good point because we get so incubated, don't we? With having the AC on and all of our, HVAC, heater and AC, that we sometimes are in a vacuum seal. And that's all. Not only does that raise your vibration when you open up a window every few days or once a week, open up a window or a door and let some fresh air and movement in. It not only will raise your vibration, as Jenny said, but it is healthy for you to mix in and not just keep circulating the same air.
Right.
To bring in some fresh air. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know it's hard if you live in a cold country or a really hot country. Just even a little bit once in a while, just to change the energy.
Yes.
Would be very good.
Right. Even if it's just for a few minutes. Oops. Flipped again. Okay. I hope we don't go out again. Jenny, you have been amazing. I'm so hoping that you can come back at a future date and talk again because just so much good information. I hope everyone who viewed this, if you like it, please make a comment, share it. That's how we can continue to bring people like Jenny on, experts on, and bring you some valuable information that hopefully that you can use to make your life better. And as always, have a great weekend. Stay positive, stay hopeful, and stay connected. And we thank you so much for connecting with us today. Thanks so much, Jenny. Have a great weekend, and hope your appointment goes well. Thanks again for joining me so early. Bye.